Okay, here are 3 reasons why Georgia is finally going to beat Alabama for the championship. Before that, very quickly, we have a 2022 College Football Championship contest for an Amazon $20 gift card. Actually, we have 2 winners. All you have to do is it's the first 2 people who provide the winning team and correct score of the upcoming Georgia-Alabama National Championship game. Put it in the comments below. You must also be subscribed to the channel to be considered. You may only enter 1 prediction. If you enter more than 1 prediction, this will disqualify you and void all your other predictions. So just put down what team you think is going to win and what the score is going to be. And of note, if no one successfully picks the exact score, then the 2 winners will be the ones who pick the winning team that are off the actual score by the least amount of points. Also, the people that submit that first, time-wise. So, for example, I predicted Georgia would beat Michigan 35-13, but the actual score was 34-11, so I was off by 1 plus 2 is 3 points. If no one else was closer to predicting the actual score, and I was the first to submit my winning team and prediction, and I was off by only 3, better than anybody else, then I would win. So we'll have 2 winners for those cards. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's get to it. First off, I want to say I don't really have a specific college football team that I root for. I like many teams, many coaches, and many players, and I oftentimes like rooting for the underdogs. And one of the coaches I really do like a lot is Nick Saban. I am a Nick Saban fan, and I think he is unquestionably the greatest coach of all time for sure. His consistent and continued level of excellence and success at Bama is hard to imagine. It's crazy the amount of success this guy's had at Alabama. And with all that being said, here's what I think is going to happen in the championship between Georgia and Bama. Number 3, the Alabama passing game is not elite anymore. Losing Mechie has taken their passing game from approaching elite to merely good. Here's some statistics to look at. Williams, for the season, had 68 receptions, 1,400 yards, a gaudy 21-yard average per reception, and 15 touchdowns. He's had an amazing season. The number 2 receiver on the team is Mechie, at 96 receptions, even more than Williams, 1,100 yards, almost a 12-yard average, and 8 touchdowns. But then there's a big drop-off to the number 3 receiver on the Alabama roster, and that's going to be Bolden. Bolden had 32 receptions, 333 yards, and a 10.4 average for 2 touchdowns. So he's literally 25% of the amount of yardage that Mechie has. He's 25% of the touchdowns that Mechie had for the season. And he's literally about 25% of he's about 30% of the receptions of Mechie. So there's a big drop-off. Losing Mechie in the passing game was huge, okay? So not having Mechie enables Georgia to focus more on stopping Williams and also enables them to put more pressure on Young in the pocket, that is, right? So some numbers from the SEC championship game. Williams had 7 receptions for 184 yards, 26-yard average, and 2 touchdowns. He had a crazy game. Mechie had 6 receptions for 97 yards, a 16-yard average, and 1 touchdown, all in the first half before he got injured. So those are all numbers he put up in the first half. So he had an amazing first half. Bolden was 3rd highest on the team for Bama with 5 receptions, 54 yards, and almost an 11-yard average, no touchdowns. Bama scored 24 points in the second quarter with the 2 receivers on the field. With Williams and Mechie on the field, they scored 24 points in the second quarter. They literally blew up, right? Then in the third quarter, with Mechie hurt, they did get a long pass in on the Georgia defense. Williams got a 55-yard bomb 2 minutes into the third quarter, but after that, the Alabama offense only scored 10 more points for the remaining 28 minutes of the game. They had a pick 6 on defense, but only 10 more points on offense for the rest of the game. Plus, they had multiple 3-and-outs on offense in the second half as Georgia was able to do a much better job on defense. I think Bama's going to have some problems moving the ball and scoring against the Georgia defense without Mechie on the field. It is possible other Bama receivers will step up and fill the Mechie void. However, I don't think it's probable, not to the level that Mechie was able to, perform. at least in my opinion. Mechie and Williams complement each other and enable each other to be more successful when they are both on the field. Their numbers are just really great when both of them are on the field. As you could see, Williams in the last game, his numbers weren't anything like the SEC championship game against Georgia. Point number 2, Stetson will play well in this championship game against Alabama. Georgia can definitely win with Stetson because his and the entire Georgia offense's kryptonite is getting down by double digits. When they get down by double digits, they're forced to focus on the passing game, and they lose their unpredictability/balance on offense, and they tend to tighten up and press in general. This happened in both of the last 2 games Stetson and Georgia played against Alabama. But now, with Mechie out and the Bama passing game not nearly as explosive as before, Georgia has much less of a chance of getting down by 2 scores. Here are some of the statistics for Stetson for the season. He had the 4th best passer rating in all of college football, okay? He completed 64% of his passes, which is good. Not great, but good. He averaged 10.1 yards per attempt, which is very good. It's one of the tops in the country. He had 24 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. And he only took 7 sacks. He was really good at avoiding the pass rush. So when Stetson is not down by double digits, he tends to play very well, as folks saw in the Michigan game last night. He played fantastic, right? I think everybody would agree with that. Stetson and the offense will play better against Bama this time around because they probably won't get down by double digits, which will keep them in their comfort zone and enable them to prevent from making the major mistakes and turnovers that they had in the last game with Bama. And number 1, Georgia defensive adjustments. Georgia has the number 1 defense in college football. They were giving up only 6.9 points per game going into the SEC championship game with Bama. They have the best scoring defense in 10 years in college football. Clemson had the number 2 best scoring defense, giving up 15 points per game this year, which is literally 8 points more a game than Georgia, just to give you an idea of how dominant the Georgia defense was this year, outside of the Alabama game. However, Tennessee was the best passing team they had faced all season, and the Volunteers were only ranked number 55 in passing yardage per game. Bama was ranked number 7 in passing yardage per game, and Young threw for 420 yards and 3 touchdowns versus the Bulldogs, and that's with Mechie playing only in the first half. Bama was Georgia's first exposure to a very strong passing offense, and they were not completely ready for the challenge. But now, Georgia has over 3 weeks to look at the film and make adjustments on defense, which will make them better against the Bama pass attack in the rematch, especially with Mechie out. They did a good job against the Michigan passing game in the Orange Bowl last night, giving up 18 completions out of 36 attempts, which is 50% completion percentage, which is considered good for a defense. 237 total yards, which is decent. 6.6 yards per attempt is good for a defense. And 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions would be considered, really good for a defense. Many of those yards came in garbage time against the second stringers. For example, the touchdown was against the second stringer. So a lot of the yardage actually was, when the game was at hand. You could argue the game was at hand 2 or 3 minutes into the second quarter, actually. To be honest, the game was over after the first quarter, I'm sad to say. No more SEC teams for us. We've had enough, thank you very much. We'll just stay in the overrated Big Ten. Who's got it better than us? The Georgia Bulldogs do, definitely. Also, Georgia played much better against the Bama offense in the second half of the SEC championship game with their halftime adjustments, and I would expect that trend to continue in the national championship game as well. So the 3 main reasons for a Georgia victory are: 1, the Alabama passing attack is not elite anymore because of the Mechie loss. Number 2, Stetson and the Georgia offense will play well and stay in their comfort zone because they probably will not go down by double digits like the past 2 meetings with Alabama. And number 3, the Georgia defense had a couple weeks to improve and make adjustments against the less explosive Bama offense they're going to face on the 10th. So what do you think? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and make your predictions in the comments section below, and you could win a $20 Amazon gift card. Go Dogs! Happy New Year and enjoy the game.